This is the Megatherium, a giant sloth that roamed Earth just 12,000 years ago. This beast stood more than 3½ m tall, and today we're going to see what this creature was all about. Oof, that one hurt. But this is just one way you might die from a prehistoric animal. Creatures that lived thousands or millions of years ago were absolutely terrifying. From giant dinosaurs to the largest snakes ever discovered, if you were to come face to face with any of these creatures, there's a pretty good chance you'd end up dead. But how would that shake down? Okay, let's start by sending Digipeter 60 million years into the past. This is the Cretaceous period. During this period, part of the Mesozoic era, there's a good chance you could come face to face with a Titanoboa. The Titanoboa was nearly twice as big as any snake living today. They grew to more than 12½ m long and typically weighed over 1,000 kilograms. These giant snakes would lurk in swampy rainforests in what's now known as Colombia. Titanoboa is such a big.
They grew to more than 12½ m long and typically weighed over 1,000 kilograms.
They grew to more than 12½ m long, and they grew to more than 12½ m long, and Titanoboa is such a big animal that, like big animals, it
probably spent most of its time in the water. It would have been in aquatic environments for a good part of it.
Our correspondent Rose spoke with him and other prehistoric experts to figure out. No problem, Peter.
And speaking of which, what would happen if the Titanoboa attacked you? Now, a snake this big needs a lot of food, and seeing a piece of prey the size of Digipeter, it would attack instantly. But how? Well, these snakes would swim through the water, using it for camouflage to get close enough to attack. They often hung out near lakes and rivers, waiting to strike. A Titanoboa would then coil its body around you rapidly. The feeling would be like you were being crushed by, oh, poor Digiper. This feels wrong, Okay, as the Titanoboa wraps around your body, it would eventually stop and we all know what.
Honestly, if it was coming after you, you probably wouldn't stand much of a chance.
If it's gotta be you versus the snake, my vote's going for the snake. Sorry, Peter, this doesn't sound like it'd be very...
Particularly the boa and python kind have really developed extremely elastic muscles and soft tissues in the throat region.
Snakes' esophaguses blow up like a balloon and then deflate over time. So you can apply the same logic to it.
The body of the animal is so large that just weight alone, it pins you to the ground and it's going to get a hold of your head with its mouth and you're going to be crushed just under the weight of the animal. Whether it could or could not constrict you really wouldn't matter.
Great. Thanks for making this even worse for me. Now, as you're passing through the Titanoboa's body, you're slowly being dissolved by the snake's stomach acids. This would be...
Well, it wouldn't really be painful.
Since you're already dead. And by the time the Titanoboa has finished digesting you, virtually nothing would be left. That's right. The Titanoboa's stomach acids are so strong that even your bones would be dissolved. The only parts of you remaining would be your nails and some of your hair. So, Peter, even though now you're eaten by a titan of boa, you can at least be happy that the predator has now become the prey. Yeah, I guess so. Okay, let's rank these deaths on our pain scale. I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10 because we have some even more terrible scenarios. Could a Titanoboa eat 5 people at once? Well, that was a question posed to us by our fan Ethan 4616. Okay, now on to the second question in today's episode of Hypothetically Speaking. If a giant sloth fell on you from a tree, could you survive? Well, thanks to Just Kate 14 for that one. I think I know the answer to this one. A giant sloth was very big, bigger than you're familiar with a regular sloth. So it would probably be very heavy, but I want to check with the research team for a second. So let's...
Hunting in complete solitude. It's approaching Digiper at nearly 60 kilometers per hour. I think the consensus nowadays is T-Rex probably wasn't as fast as you suggested. Probably more like half that. It would have needed more muscle dedicated to its legs than it possibly could have fit on those legs.
Not only that, but if a T-Rex were to move at speeds over 40 kilometers an hour, that would increase its chances of falling over, which according to Dr. Malin, if you've got an animal moving that fast and it falls at those speeds, forget about it. Like, that's a dead animal. Okay, maybe its speed is over-exaggerated in movies, but you know what isn't? Their size. The T-Rex is ridiculously massive. It wasn't until I got to see a cast of its skull where it really started to click. You know, T-Rex could eat you in one bite effectively.
Velociraptors in life were more turkey-sized. They're quite a bit smaller. Good news, but you still got to worry about those claws.
Historically, the thinking was that killer claw there, the idea was that really it slashed open the belly of its prey. So I'm gonna chalk this up as a win for me or for Digiper. It looks like there's a good chance he'd survive an encounter with a raptor. So this is more like a 5 out of 10 on the pain meter. Okay, now on to the second question if a giant sloth fell on you from a tree, could you survive? Well, thanks to Just Kate 14 for that one. I think I know the answer to this one. A giant sloth was very big, bigger than you're familiar with a regularized sloth.
They probably moved around 3 to 5 kilometers an hour, and they probably were able to do short bursts of, 8 kilometers an hour. But they were not very fast animals.
But we wouldn't have to worry about it killing us, right? These giant sloths were strictly herbivores. We can say that yes, they were eating plant material. We know they were eating stems, foliage, leaves, that sort of thing, fruits. When humans hunted these beasts, we did so with a variety of different tactics. Instead of using brute force and chasing these animals down, we used a more stealthy approach. Their claws were more than 30 centimeters long. That's 1 foot. If you got swiped with one of these, you'd be left to bleed out a slow, painful death. You might be able to recover, but without modern medicine, the chances are pretty slim. This is an 8 out of 10 for me. Okay, next we're going over 300 million years into the past to experience the Carboniferous period. This era had one particularly terrifying trait: giant insects. Now this was because of really high oxygen levels in the atmosphere at the time. The insects drank it up. The extra oxygen allowed them to grow bigger than we've ever seen. One of the most notable bugs, the Pleura, this giant centipede-like creature was over 2 m long. Once it sees you, it'll rush on over and start biting you with its giant.
Actually, research suggests that the Arthropleura was a super slow-moving insect. It hung out in forests and dined on dead plant material all day.
I'm giving this one a 0 on the pain scale. Okay, so we might not have to worry about a giant insect coming after us, but one creature we will have to worry about: the saber-toothed tiger. Let's fast forward from the Carboniferous to just 56 million years ago, a time when these beasts were one of the apex predators. This is a 9 on the pain meter, but the good news is, it wouldn't always be like this. Okay, next up, the terror croc. About 80 million years ago, this beast reigned supreme. It was over 10 m long and had a stronger bite force than the T-Rex. Similar to a lot of other animals on our list, terror crocs would ambush you. You'd likely be unaware of their presence due to their ability to camouflage themselves near the water. If you got too close, a pterocock would quickly lunge at you with its powerful open jaws and then bite down. And if its bite didn't kill you, it would perform the death roll. This is when a terror croc drags you underwater and spins you rapidly. This kind of punishment would almost certainly kill you. At that point, the terror croc would use its massive teeth to chew you into chunks, splitting your body into multiple pieces. And then the terror croc would consume every last chunk of you. Now, similar to modern-day crocodiles, the terror croc had a highly acidic stomach acid that was capable of dissolving your bones. I think I'll pass. Now, given that these creatures basically roam around today, I'm giving this a 10. More on the fear scale, but also on the pain meter. Regardless of whatever creature we think we might be able to take on in a fight, I think coming across any of these scenarios would be terrifying. Let's just say I'm pretty if a giant centipede shows up at my house. Did it find my address online? This one comes from Delete Me. Wait a second. Is this a sponsored segment for Delete Me? Again? Luckily, you won't see a giant prehistoric centipede show up at your house. But if a stranger shows up, well, they might have gotten your address from a data broker. Yeah, there are companies out there collecting your personal info from public records, social media, even other data brokers, and then selling it. That's why personally I use Delete Me, today's sponsor. Delete Me scans the internet for your personal data. Things like your full name, address, your phone number, even your job history. And they remove it from hundreds of people's search and background check sites. I didn't realize how much of my info was out there until I signed up, because within days, they found 774 pieces of personal data and removed my info from 24 sites. It's helped me feel more in control of who can access my info, but it's not just for me. Data brokers often link your profile to your family, so I added them to my plan as well. Delete Me helps you reduce exposure to risks like phishing scams, identity theft, even stalking. Getting started is simple. Just answer a few questions and they'll handle the rest. So if your personal data is wandering the digital wild, maybe it's time to rein it in. Head to joindelteamy.com/whatif and use code WHATIF to get 20% off your plan. Okay, so yeah, definitely a sponsored segment. Now let's get back to just Kate 14's question. Could a giant ground sloth crush you if it fell out of a tree? Well, thanks to just Kate 14 for that one. I think I know the answer to this one. A giant sloth was very big. Bigger than you're familiar with a regularized sloth. So it would probably be very heavy, but I want to check with the research team for a second, so let's move on to another one while they get back to me. Okay, on to our last question. If a giant centipede shows up at my house, did it find my address online? This one comes from Delete Me. Our research team got back to me with the answer. And yes, I was absolutely right. These guys were up to 4 tons. I didn't know they were that heavy, but that's like getting flattened by a pickup truck wearing a fur coat. So keep your eyes on the trees, folks, and keep your data off the internet. That's it for Hypothetically Speaking. Keep the questions coming, and maybe next time we feature your question. Now let's get back to our prehistoric monsters. Seeing these creatures today, like the megalodon, would not be good news for us humans. But that sounds like a story for another What If?